Your iPhone camera is probably way better than your photos actually look right now. And that's not because you need a new phone, it's because most people are focusing on the wrong things, using the wrong settings, and completely ignoring the final step that makes photos come alive. You see, I spent years working with cameras and editing photos, and in this video I'm gonna show you exactly how to fix that. Alright my friends, so when it comes to taking good photos with an iPhone, then that's totally possible. I mean, nowadays, the photo capabilities of smartphones in general, whether you use Android or an iPhone, is just fantastic. Now, of course, having a big professional camera like this one right here is going to give you better photos. However, the thing with smartphones is that you have them in your pocket at all times. And as said before, you can get some seriously good photos with your iPhone if you know how to use it correctly. So inside your iPhone, then navigate to Settings and then navigate to Camera. Click that. Here, there are a few things that you want to change in order to get maximize the capability of your phone. So here we start with formats down here, all right? And you click that. Now when camera capture, I like to use high efficiency. Basically hike, or is that even how you say it, or HEIC, is a modern format that Apple has that they claim offers superior image quality. It does offer half the size of JPEG, while it offers better color depth and in some cases even better dynamic range. I like it a lot and it works surprisingly well when you want to edit your photos as well. So this is what I do use. Then in the photo mode, I recommended you use 24 megapixels for maximum amount of megapixels for that, and then Pro RAW resolution control, toggle that on here, and then when the RAW format, if you want the maximum amount of quality, you can go JPEG XL lossless, but those file sizes are really big and I don't really see a massive difference between lossless and lossy. So I go with JPEG XL lossy. Then if you go back, there are a few other things that you can use as well while we are already here. The grid lines, have them on. I like to have the levels on as well. And then the fusion camera, I like to toggle this on. This is a nice little addition to have these focal lengths as well, but I like to have my default on 24 millimeters. By the way, if you want to become a better photographer, then I send out free weekly emails. They're short, fun, easy to read, and packed with value. If that sounds interesting to you, then you can find the link in the description and it's totally free. Alright, next up, simple tips to make your image quality a lot better. Alright, so first thing first, we need to talk about RAW versus JPEG or HEIC. I'm just gonna say hike from now on. I have no idea if it's correct, but we're talking about hike files right now. Now, the difference is that RAW files contains all unprocessed data from a camera sensor. It offers maximum dynamic range, color, and editing flexibilities, which means that it's ideal for professional post-processing when you want to edit your photos, because the files contain so much more information, they're much bigger, and it allows us in the editing booth to push things around to much greater extent before the files start to break down. However, I have to say that with the hike files, you're actually able to edit quite a lot, and I'll show you that a little bit later. First, let's dive into a few more simple tips to get the most out of our iPhone camera. Alright, so when you're in the camera app, then by default, I like to shoot in the high efficiency, because the RAW files get so big and clunky that if you shoot in them constantly, you will be filling up your space on your phone really, really quickly. And it's not always needed. Like, I just use them when I want the absolute maximum amount of control and quality. And that's why up here in the corner, if you want the RAW files, you can just click up here and then you can switch to RAW. So that's how I do that. And then we can switch back, or it switches back when I close the app and open it again. Now, one thing I want to add here is that when you're using the default camera app in iPhone, the RAW files in it are actually Apple ProRes RAW files, which is a bit processed. If you want like zero processed, just complete pure RAW files, you will need a third-party app. One of the best and most popular ones is called Halide, and it has the ability to do that. However, it costs monthly subscription, and I can't be arsed with more monthly subscription. So personally, all the photos that you see from me that I've shot with the phone, just the basic camera app, and it's good enough. Of course, the other ones, you have more things that you can do, but this, for what I'm doing, totally fine. Now, one other little tip that is really good to do if you want to get the best quality out of your digital photography, that is to underexpose your photos slightly, especially when you know that you want to edit them a little bit later. That's because it is much easier to retrieve the information in the shadows than it is in the highlights. So if your photo is a little bit overexposed, it's really hard to save that overexposed sky in post-production, while if it's a little bit underexposed, then you make sure that the highlights aren't blown out, but you can retrieve the shadows much more easily. So the way that you do this on an iPhone, or that I like to do this, is two ways. Firstly, it's super simple. You just, here is the camera right here. You can see the lights and everything. I just click on the screen like this, and then I drag down. You see what happens? You get the sun star here, and just drag it down ever so slightly. I'm not really trying to be super specific with it. I just know that I can underexpose it a little bit. Now, if you want to have even more control and be a little bit more professional with it, then you can go up in the corner here, in the right corner, and you can go to exposure. Now you get this exposure dial, and you can just turn it down a little bit from maybe a whole stop, just depending on the scene. You can even go further down if the scene is super bright and you know that your camera can support it. But usually I stay from minus 0.3 to a whole stop, sometimes further. It all depends on the scene. Which leads us to the next step, which is by far the most important part in order to make your phone photos not look like phone photos and make them look like actual professional photos. All right, so when it comes to editing photos, the rabbit hole there is super deep, and there is so much that you can do. And this is really the step that you want to do to take your photos and turn it into that final image, that polished, that super beautiful look. And I have multiple free Lightroom tutorials here on this channel. I even have a complete masterclass if you want to really dive into it and learn it super well. But when it comes to my smartphone photos, I try to keep it quite simple. By far, one of the most important steps that I can give you with smartphone photography and editing is to try to remove that digital edge. When it comes to photographing with an iPhone, it's really processed. It has this kind of phony look. Not phony, but phone. You understand what I'm trying to say? It looks like a smartphone photo. And we want to try to take that away and give that less of that digital edge and more of that film look. And one of the most simplest ways that you can do that is to add grain to the photo. And that is so simple if you're using a program like Lightroom. And Lightroom is the editing program that I use. I pay for it because I think it's fantastic and I'm a professional and I couldn't really live without it. I think they have a free version out there, but if not, I'm sure that there are some multiple others editing apps out there that are free to use. But Lightroom, I couldn't live without it. And then the second thing you can do to try to remove that digital edge is to reduce the clarity and the sharpness of your photo. And the way that you do both of this is that if you're in Lightroom, you can go to Effects, and here you can take down the clarity just a little bit. Oh, that was clarity here. And you just have to figure out how far you can take it. I think if you go well past 20 or 30, it starts to look too soft, but somewhere here, minus 10, minus 50, minus 20, something like that. You can play around the texture as well, but I usually just take the clarity, and then the grain, I like to add that up quite a lot. I think 35, somewhere around there, is usually a sweet spot, plus minus 10. Also, as I said, I want to keep my smartphone photography simple because an image like this, I might just want to post on story on Instagram, but I want to make it look good. So the way that I edit it, I pull it up here, I go to my presets, and I have a big preset pack with 40 different presets that works really well for smartphone photography, and they are handmade to work well with phones. And already with just a few simple clicks of a button, we're taking the photo from looking like this to this. Very subtle, but it just makes such a big difference. Now that was a really subtle edit, but sometimes they're much more dramatic. And all of the photos that I'm showing you in this video are all shot with a phone and then all edited in Lightroom, the same way that I'm showing you right now. Now let's take this photo right here. Now this is a raw photo shot on the iPhone. And the first thing I would like to do is to crop it a little bit. So I go and crop, and you see this tree that's there, and I just want to crop it like something like this here. So we take away mostly of the branches, and then we can remove them later as well. Then what I would do, I would click my preset pack here, and I know that there is a preset called Rainy Street that I think will look pretty damn sick on this. And you can just see that here, with just a click of a button, the edit went from this to this. Now it's not finished, and I think a preset is never a hole-in-one, although they can happen. But here I would do a few extra edits as well. So what I would do, I'll click the mask, because this preset had a bunch of masks, and I'll just move them to the subject and make sure that it is here on the subject. This one, we can take that down a little bit like this. And here I'm quite happy. The next thing I would do, I would remove these things here and these thing here by using the removal tool. And the way to do that, I click on the removal tool, and all you have to do then is just to use the removal tool. I'm doing this sloppy right now, and Lightroom will literally remove this thing and make this photo a lot cleaner. Now, if you want to check out this preset packet, then you can find it on my website for a fair price. And better yet, I've actually bundled together all of my digital products. I'm talking all of my presets, LUTs, templates, overlays, guides, and everything else into one master bundle that you can currently grab at a big discount. So if that sounds interesting, then you can find it in the description down below. But for example, let's take this photo right here. This is also an iPhone RAW file. So what I would do here, as again, I would start with a preset. I think autumn light would look good. Now, this is a good example because here it's not really a hole-in-one. Of course, there is some difference, and you can see that this is before and this is after, but it's not that punchy. So what I would do here is that we can go to light and go to the tone curve, and I would start, and I would like to get a little bit more contrast to the images by doing so. So now we've gotten a lot of more contrast, and it's pretty nice. Now, it's not perfect, so I would add up the contrast a little bit here. I'd like to take up the whites a little bit and up with the shadows as well, like so. And then what I would like to do, because now the image look like this, I would like to crop it a little bit, a tiny bit here, I think looks good. And then we go to the color, and I think this photo could look good by giving it more autumn like color boost. So we take up the vibrance, take up the saturation. Maybe this is a little bit too much. And then we can also go to the color mixer, and we can take down the orange just like this here. That was actually up. We take it down to maybe only 1. And then the last thing, you see this little cut down tree here. I would like to remove that. So go to the removal tool here, and we just paint it like this. This is really sloppy. You obviously do it better for explanatory purposes. And then to remove the digital edge, I want to up the grain to maybe 35, something like this, and then take down the clarity a little bit more. And this is really, really nice. This is before and this is after, and it's such a big difference that this didn't take a lot longer. But here's the thing, my friend. Even if you use all of the right settings, use the right tricks, and edit your photos properly, none of that actually matters if you don't know how to make interesting photos in the first place. So if you want to learn how to take great photos in boring places, then watch this video next right here.